Good afternoon. This afternoon what I want to tie for you is called a chamois worm. It's a fly I learned how to tie when I was doing a casting for recovery retreat weekend in North Carolina, and the person I learned this from was a guide who guides the mountain streams in North Carolina, and her name is Star, and she's a great guide, and this is a great little fly that she taught me how to tie. It's very, very effective on the trout in the streams there, and I'm sure you may find it effective on trout in the streams where you are. It is a weighted fly. We start with a Mustad 3906 size 12 hook. It is a wet nymph hook, and we start we use yellow tying thread. Now for these flies that I tie, I use regular sewing thread, just the Coats dual duty. Sewing thread is very effective on these flies, and it just gives a good solid thread base, and I teach kids how to tie these, so it's real easy for them to use sewing thread. So we start our thread an eye length behind the eye, and we wrap back, put an even thread base all the way back to above the barb. Now you tie this a little more uniquely than you would a Chamois worm. This is made from strips of strips of chamois, and you just go to Kmart or any auto supply store and buy yourself a nice little square of chamois, and the smaller you can buy, the better. If you get a regular size chamois, they're a little expensive, but then that gives you enough for about 10,000 flies. And if you cut it in strips, they're approximately 1/8 of an inch wide and at least 2.5 inches long. And that will be more than enough for you, because you find that once you get it all cut, once you stretch them out, the material kind of stretches out and kind of coils up and forms kind of a round body for you. And as it absorbs water, as you fish it, it will round out even more. Now, occasionally you'll find a spot in the chamois where there's a flaw where it won't stretch out, but that's not a problem with this, because we'll probably end up cutting that much out anyway. So what we want to do is we want to tie on our chamois and let it extend about 2 full hook lengths behind the hook. So we measure 2 full hook lengths and tie that on at the tail. You just want to secure that very, very well at the tail and fold that back. Now what we're going to do here is we're just going to move our thread forward, and we're going to tie in a little lead. We want to weight this with about 6 lead wraps right in the middle of the hook shaft. Now I'm very cheap, and I try and be very frugal, so I'm going to do this in a way that I just bend it over and hopefully can hold it on here, and we can do 6 wraps without wasting a lot of this. So it may slip on me, and if it does, we'll just start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we just work that back and forth until it snaps off itself very easily. Then take our back end that we just started and just push that up and fold it over so it's smooth. Now we want to tie that tail end down. Okay, so we just wrap over this very gently, just so we can build a dam in the front, so that when we really start tying it down, it doesn't start splitting on us. So we just wrap around until we get it tied down all the way around. Now, we come all the way back and leave our thread right there at our tie-in spot. Now I have one little piece of lead sticking out here. Okay. What we're going to do is just wrap our chamois forward at this spot. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be exact, it just has to be wrapped forward. When you get it to right behind the eye, what you do is you spiral rib with your yellow thread over the chamois, going up to right behind, and it doesn't have to be an even spiral, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a utility fly. This is not a pretty fly. It's a fly that'll catch fish for you, and that's what it's designed to do. So we tie this down really well, right behind the eye. Bring this up. Take some really good wraps here. Cut off our excess right behind the eye. Wrap that down. We want to wrap a little yellow head. Now, why a yellow head and why yellow thread, I'm not sure, just that they tell me that yellow is the color that it must be to be effective. So I do what I'm told. If you choose to try and do this with other color threads, you're very free to do that, and you can do whatever you want. As I say, in North Carolina, they swear by the yellow thread to tie this fly, and you know, when you're guessing someone else's land, you do as you're told. Just making sure we aren't encroaching on the eye here. I'm going to put a little head cement. Then what you want to do if just take the tail of the chamois, and if you want to cut it to a point, you can do that just right like that. And that doesn't have to be exactly even point. Now, I have the tail kind of long on this, but that's the way they fish them. And if you find that your fish are striking a little short, you can always shorten it. I would recommend that you tie them kind of long and then just clip them off as you need, but quite often we found that they just kind of suck the whole thing down. But it's a weighted fly. It gets you down nicely in the current and tumbles very well. And when the chenille gets full of water, the chamois gets full of water, it just kind of fills up and makes a nice rounded body that's very, very, very malleable in the water and really flows very well with the current and has a lot of wiggle and move to it that regular chenille doesn't have. So using chamois is a real nice alternative, and the fish seem to like the color of the natural chamois very much. So I hope you give this fly a try and that it does well for you. Have a great day and God bless you.